Hey everyone, it's Sarant. It is a cold day in the city. As you can see, I'm wearing a jacket, I'm wearing a hoodie, I'm wearing a toque, I've got gloves on because I just came over to my favorite little neighborhood shopping center on this little blue beauty right here. My little Gonggong Zixingche, meaning public bicycle. It cost me all of nothing really because I bought a coupon this month. 13.9 renminbi, which is about $2.76 Canadian for an entire month of unlimited usage of these things. And whereas I could have walked here in 10-15 minutes, it's freezing cold in Shenzhen right now. But we'll talk more about that later. Behind me here, I've got one of my favorite little mini malls in the neighborhood. In the building directly behind me right there is where my gym is. I go there 3 or 4 times a week. But in this little area, there's a hotel, there's business towers, there's a bunch of little restaurants, and oddly enough, there are at least 8, though possibly more now, coffee shops. I don't understand how in a 2-block radius there are so many coffee shops and they still do good business, but they do. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go wander over, grab a coffee, and then I want to share with you something that I think is a very, very important aspect of visiting and especially living in China. But we'll see in a minute once I've got something hot to drink. Whew. It is chilly today, let me tell you. It is technically, the weather is 8 degrees Celsius, though it feels like 5 degrees Celsius with the humidity. I saw some pictures from a friend of mine in Hong Kong where there was actually some snow in some of the colder regions, which was more sleet, rain that had turned into ice and snow, but snow nonetheless, which is very uncommon. For those of you that don't believe that climate change is happening, it's happening. This is very uncommon for this part of the world, especially considering last week on this exact same day, Wednesday, I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, sweating my balls off riding my bicycle around the Tiyuguan. Today I'm wearing a thick fall jacket, a hoodie, a t-shirt underneath. I wear my toque, I wear gloves when I'm riding. It's chilly, but that's not what I came to talk to you about today. One of the questions that I get from a lot of people, and it is a valid question, is if I'm traveling or living in China, should I or do I need to know basic Chinese? And the short answer is abso-frickin-lutely. Now, whereas it's very true that most of the signs on the businesses, the streets, everywhere you go will have English of some kind on it, whether it's pinyin, so you can understand what the characters that are printed out mean, or actual English. For example, there's a street sign right over there. Let me see if I can bring that into focus here. That says Longshan Boulevard, Rui Road, Huangge Road. In English. That's not even the pinyin, that's the actual English names of the streets and boulevard, road, etc. Now, this is incredibly common in China, so getting around is relatively easy without knowing how to speak Chinese. The other thing too is that China is a country filled with English students. So whereas even if you're having a hard time, you can't find something, you need something, it's relatively easy to just ask the general population. A lot of the older generation won't speak any English, but most of the younger generation will, even to a limited degree. The thing you're going to deal with more there is shyness. People not wanting to speak English just because they're shy. They think that their English is not good enough. China in that regard is a very humble race when it comes to their ability to speak English, even though most students, other than in the most remote and rural areas, study English in school from kindergarten right through to university. This is a big part of their culture because they really desperately do want to be part of the international community and they don't want language to be a barrier. Now, that said, do I personally think that a person should be able to speak some Chinese? Absolutely. Now, you don't have to. I do know people personally, friends of mine, who have lived in China for 5 years, 10 years, some even 20 years without speaking more than basic, rudimentary English. For example, 多少钱 means how much is that? And a very, very important phrase, the first one I actually learned in Chinese was 太贵了, meaning that's too expensive. And you can take it a little bit further and go 便宜点, meaning can you make it a little bit cheaper? Now, China is a bartering culture, so that is a very important part of society. If you just take the first price on anything that you're given, you're going to pay more than you have to. I'm not saying it's a rip-off or it's a bad deal, but you are going to pay more than you would if you were able to barter. I personally love bartering. I find it very, very fun and amusing. I will take it to the next level. Instead of just saying that's too expensive, make it cheaper, I'll throw my arm around the merchant. You know, I'll say, you know, old friend, we've been friends forever. We're from the old country. Give a guy a deal, give a guy a break. I find it fun, and 9 times out of 10 it works. But more importantly, people here really appreciate it when you do speak Chinese, even if it is poorly. Now, my Chinese is not fantastic. Mama hoo hoo. So at best, I think. But it's enough that when I go out in public, when I go out solo shopping, or like I'm doing today, just wandering around, having fun, seeing what I can see, enjoying the day, I don't need to be like so many of those other foreigners I know that every time they need something, they go, and they pull out their phone and they phone their wife or their best friend or their secretary or somebody and say, can you tell this person that I need this? And then they hand the phone to the person. Or can you tell this taxi driver that I need to go to this hotel? And then hand the taxi driver the phone. No, I don't play that game. Since day one in China, and my wife will attest to this, I've never been one of those people that gets other people to do my talking for me. Even before I could speak Chinese, I made a point of trying my very best. And when I couldn't communicate in Chinese, I would use the international language of nonverbal communication. Pointing, drawing, kind of explaining things with my hands. But the most important thing is that foreigners give it a try. Whether you're here for a week, just being able to say ni hao or 早上好, good morning. 我要这个, I want this. 谢谢, thank you. Those few little sentences, even if spoken completely incorrectly, will change the mood of the person you're talking to between night and day. It's amazing. People will smile. They will be so appreciative of the fact that you're willing to learn what is very obviously one of the more challenging languages on the planet to learn. And to learn rudimentary Chinese just for getting around, it's not really that bad. But if you plan on living here, I personally think that it's very important that you take it to the next level or beyond, like where I'm at now. Because if Chinese people or people from any country came to live permanently in Canada, and I've seen this myself, I've seen numerous YouTube videos about this, where new immigrants come over and they can't speak the language very well, and very, very either racist or just ignorant Karens will give these people shit and say, hey, if you're gonna live in my country, then you better speak my language. This is English country, blah, 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 blah. And they get right up their asses about it, right? It's an expectation that if you're gonna live in my country, then you should learn my language, right? This is a fact. This happens all the time. However, when foreigners come to China, so many of them just say, it's too hard, I don't need it. I can buy beer, I can order my favorite food in the restaurants, and there are honestly so many restaurants around where the food is all just laid out or has pictures in the menus that you don't even need to be able to do that. You can just point. I call those point and shoot restaurants where you just go, you don't need to speak. So like I said, you can also get people to help you here. But the difference it makes with the local people, especially the ones that don't speak any English at all. Yesterday, I went off to a local little pool hall in a very old neighborhood here in Shenzhen, and I probably was the first foreigner they've seen in that particular neighborhood in a long time due to COVID, just the fact that it's not a touristy area. And I was able to converse with the people. I was actually able to have conversations with the shopkeepers and with the people walking down the street. And it just changes the mood of the entire conversation so much to be able to say more than just, hello, I want this, to, isn't it a nice day out today? I need this because of this. All of a sudden you go from being foreigner to, wow, you can speak Chinese? You're amazing. I love you. Please come back and hang out and talk with us anytime. People really do appreciate so much when you're willing to put in the effort to learn their language, night and day. And it just changes your comfort zone so much in China. I know so many people here that feel very, very isolated because they don't know how to speak the language, so they don't feel comfortable going off on their own. If they don't have a Chinese friend with them, or a spouse, or a girlfriend or boyfriend, something like that, they just don't leave the house, and it leads to depression, it leads to sadness. Whereas people like myself that can just head out the door anytime they want, do whatever they want, it's like being back home, just in a different language. So, long story short, do I think that foreigners should learn Chinese when coming to China, whether it's for a short visit or a long visit? Absolutely. If you're just coming for a holiday, learn the basics. Learn how to say hello. Learn how to say thank you. Learn how to barter. It's important. And that also shows a higher level of understanding of the culture. But if you plan to live or work here, like I do, stop being lazy. Learn some frickin' Chinese. It's not only going to make you feel more comfortable and make you feel better, but it's going to make the local people respect you more and treat you more like one of their own people, which has made the difference for me. I love it here, even when I'm freezing, because I can speak, and it's such an amazing feeling to have that comfort level, to have that sense of freedom in a country on the other side of the world. Cheers, everybody. I'm going to hug this hot coffee for a while, and we'll see you in the next video.